The Detroit Lions have started off the 2022 season with a 1-3 record, and despite the record implying they are the same old Lions with their losing ways, they are in fact far from it. They have 3 one-score losses and have put up the most points in the NFL and have also gave up the most points in the NFL. Sure, their record at the moment isn't good, but there is a lot to look forward to. And we've heard that a lot over the past 2 years since Dan Campbell took over as head coach, but haven't seen great results from a win-loss standpoint, as Campbell is just 4-16-1 since becoming the Lions head coach in January of 2021. But there is genuinely a lot to look forward to with this franchise, not just for the rest of the 2022 season, but for their future as well, and we will break everything down in today's video regarding the Detroit Lions, and without further ado, let's begin. I realize Lions fans are probably sick of hearing about the future. When does the future translate to now? We have one playoff win in the Super Bowl era, and we want results, and I get it. But when Dan Campbell and general manager Brad Holmes took control of the roster, there were a lot of decisions that had to be made. The first big decision they made was trading franchise quarterback Matt Stafford to the Rams, who won a Super Bowl with them in his first season with the team. The Lions received 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and of course, starting quarterback Jared Goff. And since the trade occurred, there was this idea that Goff is the quarterback for this team until they find a replacement for him, and not a single game longer. And as someone who was in this boat, the start to the 2022 season has made me rethink the quarterback situation in Detroit and think maybe Jared Goff is their long-term guy. Goff is currently tied for leading the NFL in passing touchdowns with 11 in 4 games, alongside not one, but 2 former MVPs in Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. Goff has 2 4 passing touchdowns games on the season, and generally speaking, if your quarterback throws for 4 touchdowns in a game, you should win that game more often than not. Unfortunately, Detroit lost in Week 4 to the Seattle Seahawks with a score of 48-45, but there was a lot of good within that game. 4 weeks into the 2022 NFL season, Jared Goff is playing at an elite level and is leading the team with the highest scoring offense in the league. Not the Patrick Mahomes-led Chiefs, not the Josh Allen-led Bills, but the Jared Goff-led Lions. Goff can't control his defense, has allowed less than 25 points, a grand total of 0 times in 4 games, and has been absolutely balling. Goff has not the defense, to be clear. And what may be the most impressive thing is he led a team to 45 points in Week 4 without his number 1 running back in DeAndre Swift and his number 1 receiver in the up-and-coming, soon-to-be household name in Amon-Ra St. Brown. This is all being accomplished without a player they spent the number 12 overall pick on in Jameson Williams, the speedy receiver from Alabama. They have one of the best offensive lines in football, and their right tackle in Penei Sewell is on his way to being an elite right tackle and will more than likely be there for a decade. And for what it's worth, if you want to put Penei in the upper tier of right tackles at this point, I would not be opposed to it. He's the real deal. He allowed a sack in Week 1 against the Eagles, who have one of the best defensive lines and pass rush in all of football, and a hurry against Washington in Week 2, but has posted back-to-back games of no hurries, no quarterback hits, or no sacks allowed against the Vikings and Seahawks. From an offensive perspective, the Lions are a complete team. The least they've scored in a game this season has been 24 points, and in the other 3 games, they've put up 35 or more points. For as good as their offense is and has been through 4 games, their defense is something else entirely. I love what the Lions have going on, but in no circumstance is giving up 48 points to a Geno Smith-led offense acceptable. And to make matters worse, the game was played at home. For as good of weeks 1 through 3 as corner Jeff Okudah had, he was beat not once but multiple times in Week 4 against Seattle. According to PFF, he gave up 5 receptions for 124 yards, and the reason I bring this up isn't to question whether Okudah has it or not, or if the first few games were hype, because they weren't. He has all the tools. But the reason I bring this up is to show anybody can get beat and will get beat week in and week out. Through the first 3 games, Okudah gave up a combined 12 receptions for 106 yards, which is allowing less than 9 yards per catch. And he was going up against Devontae Smith, Terry McLaurin, and Justin Jefferson in those games. So sure, DK Metcalf made some plays on him, but it's not the end of the world with one bad game. With how well Jeff Okudah has played minus week 4, the same cannot be said for 2 other Lions corners, which are Amani Oruwariye and Mike Hughes. Amani had a solid 2021 and had 6 interceptions, which is outstanding. He was also a solid player in coverage and had just 1 game where he allowed more than 100 yards, and that was against Minnesota. He had 8 penalties in 14 games called on him, which a penalty per nearly 2 games played isn't bad when factoring in he played the Vikings twice, Cincinnati and their crew of receivers, Green Bay with Devontae Adams, and you get the point. But to start the 2022 season, he has been very bad. In what was eventually a Week 3 loss to the Vikings, Amani had 6 penalties called on him. 6. Not 2, not 3, but 6 in a singular game. He has only played in 3 games this season, and in 3 games, he has allowed 5 receptions for 69 yards, nice, in 2 of those games, and a game where he allowed 9 catches for 79 yards. And this is a contract year for him, so this does not bode well for his future in Detroit. He has 13 games to turn it around, but it has been ugly for him to start the year. Veteran Mike Hughes was a low-risk, high-reward signing as a former first-round pick and has not panned out for Detroit. Quarterbacks are completing passes at an 80% rate when targeting Hughes through the first 4 weeks, and in week 3, Hughes gave up the game-winning touchdown to Vikings receiver KJ Osborne, so Detroit most certainly needs some help in the secondary. Now, another player who has not had a hot start for the Lions is the number 2 overall pick in Aiden Hutchinson. Hutchinson, in theory, had a 3-sack game against Washington, but they were easy sacks, and he didn't really have to do much to earn those. There was a play in Week 3 against the Vikings that was particularly concerning, where Adam Thielen scored a touchdown, but on the play, Vikings running back Dalvin Cook stonewalled Hutchinson. Not Pro Bowl tackle Brian O'Neill, but running back Dalvin Cook. And while Aiden has been slightly disappointing through 4 games, as he also isn't getting after the quarterback at a high rate, the positive spin from this is he's 22 years old and on a team that had the number 2 overall pick this past year. While there is a lot to look forward to with this team, they should not have been expected to win 11 plus games this year. And in addition to this, for Hutchinson and the Lions, a fellow 2022 draftee and second rounder Josh Pascal will be coming back soon from injury and can at this point really only help the Lions defense. The biggest thing to remember is a lot of the players on the Lions defense, like Hutch, Pascal when he comes back, even Okudah, who despite being in his 3rd season is just 23 years old, and rookie Malcolm Rodriguez, this defense is young. They are going to make mistakes. Obviously, you don't want your defense to be the worst in the NFL in scoring through 4 weeks and let the Seahawks put up 48 points in your stadium, but remember, this is the worst it will be for the Lions in 2022, and there are going to be a lot of growing pains. In terms of coaching decisions Dan Campbell has made through the first 4 weeks, far and away the worst one was against the Vikings when it was 4th and 4 on the Vikings' 36-yard line. It was a 24-21 game late in the 4th quarter, and out of the 3 decisions Campbell could have made, go for it like he had all game as the Lions were 4 of 6 on 4th downs, take a delay of game and punt from the Vikings' 41-yard line to pin them deep, or kick the field goal. He chose the worst, which was kicking the field goal. Kicker Austin Seibert ended up missing the 54-yarder, which gave the Vikings the ball at their own 44-yard line. Even if Seibert makes the field goal, the Vikings still have to score a touchdown, which they were going for no matter what to begin with. In a lot of ways, the Lions should have beat the Vikings in week 3. But Detroit's next few games are at the Patriots, then at the Cowboys, which is after their bye week, and home against the Dolphins. The Lions have more than been in all of their games so far, so to say any of these are not winnable to me would be an overreaction. The 4-0 Philadelphia Eagles had a lot of trouble with the Lions because they are a very tough team. With how good the Lions' run game is, though, I'd love to see DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams both stay healthy, because if they do, there is a legitimate chance they could have 2 1,000-yard rushers in the same offense. This would in turn also help out the young defense, because they get to rest while the offense has these 8, 9, 10 plus play drives and really wear their opponent out over the course of the ball game. Will this team win 10 plus games this year? Probably not, and to be fair, I didn't think they would entering the season either, but they have everything there. It's just about putting it all together, because when they do, they will be a team week in and week out no one wants to play. Hell, I don't think anyone wakes up and says, I want to play the Dan Campbell-led Detroit Lions right now. And in Dan Campbell's words, as there hasn't been a game yet where the Lions haven't ran for less than 100 yards, they will kick your ass. And that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, as it would mean the world. Also, please subscribe to the second channel where we do Madden franchises. And guys, until next time, as always, please be safe and have a great rest of your day. Love you guys.